All right, so we're diving deep today, all about how to totally nail that interview for a Clothing Cad pattern maker position.
Oh, it's such a fun area, where you get to bring together that creative side and the technical side of fashion.
For sure. You send over some great resources, sample interview questions, even a whole career guide. We're going to break it all down.
I think people will be surprised by how much goes into it.
Absolutely. So before we even get to the interview questions, like what exactly does a Clothing Cad pattern maker do day to day?
Right, let's set the scene. Basically, they're the bridge between, the designer's vision, those beautiful sketches, and the actual garment.
Okay, so it's more than just pretty drawings.
Oh, for sure. Way more technical. They take those sketches and using CAD software, they turn them into these super precise digital patterns.
And then
Those patterns, they're like the instructions. They guide everything, the cutting, the sewing, making sure the final piece fits right and matches what the designer wanted.
it's kind of like the blueprint for the garment.
Exactly. You have to get it right or the whole thing falls apart. You need to know, like, garment construction inside and out.
Yeah, like how different fabrics behave, the sewing techniques. It's a lot.
It is. Plus, you're thinking about ease, how the garment will hang, drape on the body. It's that mix of artistry and technical stuff.
The career guide you sent over also mentioned that CAD pattern makers, they have to be mindful of the entire production process, not just the design part.
Oh, 100%. A great pattern maker. They get how their patterns will affect the whole manufacturing process from A to Z, thinking about things like fabric waste, how easy it'll be to actually sew, and if it can be produced efficiently.
So they're thinking about costs, not just looks.
Totally. Making something beautiful is great, but if it's too expensive or complicated to produce, it's not going to work.
Okay, so let's imagine we're in the interview, right?
Yeah.
And they hit you with this question. It's the first one on your list. How do you approach pattern making for different types of garments, like outerwear or swimwear? What's going through your head when you hear that?
Classic question. And it's the interviewer's way of seeing if you really get that pattern making isn't one size fits all. You got to adapt.
Because I'm guessing a winter coat and a bikini, they're not made the same way.
No way. Outerwear. Think about it. Layers, heavy fabrics, maybe linings, those closures. It's all very structured.
Totally different than something stretchy and light.
Exactly. Swimwear is all about that stretch, getting the fit perfect, but with minimal seams for a smooth look.
So when you answer this question, you got to you've worked with different types of garments and that you understand the challenges, right?
Yeah, this is where that portfolio comes in handy. You want to be able to show, not just tell, like, hey, I've done this, I can handle that.
Proof in the pudding.
Exactly. And this is also where I think RoleCatcher's AI can be a game changer.
Oh, how so?
Let's say you're applying for a job that's all about outerwear. RoleCatcher can look at that job description and suggest, hey, emphasize these skills, talk about this experience.
So it's like a cheat sheet, but super personalized.
Exactly. It helps you tailor your answers to what that specific company is looking for, even uses the right keywords to catch their attention.
Okay, cool. Back to our interview question about different garment types. Let's say you gave a great overview of your experience. What kind of follow-up question might they throw at you?
Ooh, they might get specific, like, tell me about a time you had to adapt a pattern, and what challenge did you face? How'd you solve it? Something like that.
Oh yeah, getting into the nitty-gritty.
They want to see how you think on your feet. Problem-solving skills are huge.
So having a good story ready to go is smart.
Totally. It could be anything, like a fabric that had more stretch than you expected or a weird fit issue you had to fix, but be specific.
Show them the steps you took and hopefully a happy ending.
Right. A positive outcome is always good to highlight. It shows you can handle the tough stuff and come out on top.
Awesome. Okay, let's move on to the next question.
All right, so we've tackled those tough interview questions. Let's take a step back and look at the big picture of your career as a clothing CAD pattern maker.
Love it. The career guide actually mentions different career stages, which is so cool because you can really grow in this role.
Yeah, it's awesome to see how someone in this role can progress. Usually you start out in a junior role, helping out the more experienced pattern makers.
So it's kind of like an apprenticeship.
Exactly. Learning the ropes, mastering the software, helping design and check patterns. You're part of the team, but you've got guidance.
Makes sense. And then as you get more experience, you take on more, right?
For sure. You start to design and create patterns on your own, maybe even lead smaller projects or mentor those new junior pattern makers coming in.
Full circle, from mentee to mentor. I like it. The career guide also mentioned specializing within the field, too. What's that all about?
So as you go along, you might find a niche that you really love. Could be anything, like maybe you get into sustainable clothing or you're amazing at that super detailed haute couture stuff.
A haute couture, that's like red carpet gowns and stuff,
Yeah.
right?
It is super glamorous. But even if you're not into that, there's so much to specialize in. Technical sportswear, lingerie, even children's wear, it's all there.
So how does RoleCatcher play into all this, with the different stages and specializations?
Well, their AI is all about finding the perfect fit for you, your skills, and what you want to do. It looks at your profile, suggests jobs that match your goals, whether you're just starting out or want to specialize.
So if someone is really into eco-friendly fashion, RoleCatcher could help them find companies that are doing that.
Exactly. It might even show you things you hadn't thought about before, like maybe you've always done women's wear, but RoleCatcher is like, hey, check out this sustainable activewear company.
It's like it opens up all these new paths you never knew existed. That's amazing. What about people who are just starting out, though? Does RoleCatcher help with that?
Oh yeah, tons of resources for that. Tips on building a portfolio, finding internships, even writing a killer resume and cover letter.
Speaking of resumes and cover letters, I know RoleCatcher's AI can help with those too, right?
Big time. It looks at job descriptions and helps you highlight the best stuff about yourself. It's like having a resume expert in your pocket.
Okay, that's super helpful, especially when you're just starting out and don't really know how to sell yourself,
Yeah.
you know? But it's not just about avoiding mistakes, right?
Yeah.
It's about making your application stand out.
You got it. RoleCatcher helps you find those keywords that recruiters love. Use strong verbs to make your achievements really pop. Even make sure your resume is formatted in a way that's easy to read.
It's not just what you say, but how you say it.
Exactly. You got to present yourself in the best light possible. Plus, there's something really cool about being discovered by employers through RoleCatcher.
What do you mean?
It's not just sending your resume out into the void, hoping for the best. It's putting yourself in front of companies that are actually looking for someone like you.
Oh, that's nice. Take some of the pressure off.
Yeah.
It's like they're already interested. But is it just about getting the job? Or does RoleCatcher offer support beyond that initial step?
RoleCatcher is there for you throughout your whole career journey. It's about growing and changing as you go. They've got resources for figuring out different career paths in fashion, figuring out what skills you need to work on, even connecting you with mentors or online courses to keep learning.
Well, so it's really about, like, taking charge of your career, not just finding a job.
Exactly. You've got a roadmap, a support system, the whole thing. But don't forget those soft skills. Those are super important too.
Right. You mean communication, problem solving, teamwork, all that good stuff.
Yeah, those things might not be in every interview question, but they're always being noticed. You got to show them off throughout the whole conversation.
But how do you do that without being all, I'm a great communicator? Got to be subtle.
Definitely. It's about showing, not telling. So when you answer questions, be clear, be concise, really listen to what the interviewer is saying, ask good questions back.
Shows you're paying attention, you're interested.
Right, and tell stories. Give real examples of times you handled something tricky or worked really well with a team.
Makes it more real, more relatable. And it's okay to talk about mistakes too, right?
Yeah.
As long as you learn something.
For sure. Nobody's perfect. What matters is how you dealt with it, fixed it, and what you took away from the experience.
Shows you can bounce back.
Yeah.
You're accountable. Okay, so we talked about building a strong foundation, picking a specialty, using RoleCatcher, and highlighting those soft skills. What's the final piece of the puzzle? What ties it all together?
Passion. You can have all the skills in the world, but if you don't love what you do, it's going to show. Passion is contagious. It comes through in your work, your interactions, even your interview answers.
So how do you show that passion in an interview?
Just let it out. Talk about what excites you in fashion, what inspires you, your eagerness to learn and grow.
Maybe you have a favorite designer, a dream project you'd love to do, some new technique you're dying to try.
Exactly. Share those things. Let your personality shine through. Let them see how much you love fashion. Interviewers are looking for someone who fits in too, not just someone who can do the job.
And it's got to be real, right? Not just putting on a show.
Authenticity is key. When you're truly passionate, it just comes naturally. And that's what'll make you stand out, make you memorable.
Okay, before we move on, quick reminder to our listeners that all these great resources we've been talking about, you can find them on RoleCatcher.
Seriously, it's like having your own personal fashion career squad all in one place.
Love it. So head over to RoleCatcher, check it out, and get ready to crush that interview. Now, for the final act, let's leave our listeners with some parting words of wisdom and encouragement as they start their journey as Clothing Cad Patternmakers. All right, we're back, and it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the world of Clothing Cad Patternmakers. You've got the skills, you know how to use RoleCatcher, and you're ready to show your passion. But before we say goodbye,
I was thinking maybe we leave our listeners with something to think about, a question to kind of spark their imagination as they go on this career journey.
ooh, love that idea. Give us a good brain teaser. What's the question?
How about this? What are some ways you can make your pattern making process more sustainable? And how would you talk about that commitment in an interview?
That's a good one. It really ties together everything we've been discussing.
Right. You got to know your stuff. You got to be aware of what's happening in the industry. And you got to show that you care.
Totally. So what are some concrete things our listeners could actually mention?
Yeah.
I know the career guide talked about sustainable clothing, but let's get into specifics.
Okay. So they could talk about reducing fabric waste, right? Like really thinking about how to lay out the pattern pieces so you're using every inch of fabric.
Makes sense. Waste not, want not. What else?
They could talk about eco-friendly fabrics too. Organic cotton, recycled materials, things like that. Showing they know what's out there.
Right. It's not just about the pattern. It's about the whole garment, the whole process. And speaking of the whole garment, it's got to last, right? We don't want clothes ending up in the landfill after just a couple of wears.
Exactly. Designing for durability, for repairability, that's huge in sustainable fashion. Maybe they could talk about putting in design elements that make it easy to mend a garment or even alter it so it can be worn for years.
That's such a great point. It shows that you're not just a pattern maker, but you're thinking about the impact of fashion, You're part of this solution.
Exactly. And this question, it's only going to become more important in interviews as sustainability becomes a bigger and bigger deal for fashion companies.
So as we wrap up, I want to remind everyone about RoleCatcher. It's seriously an amazing resource no matter where you are in your career. Go check it out.
It's like having a whole team supporting you, helping you find the right path.
So go for it. Believe in yourself, show your passion, never stop learning, and the fashion world will welcome you with open arms.
That's it for this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep creating, keep chasing those fashion dreams.
And remember, the perfect pattern for your career is out there. You just got to find it.